Welcome to the 5th episode of It Gets Better, the podcast in which my friend peer pressures me into watching a bunch of garbage. I'm Brian Abrams.
And I'm Liz Charbonneau.
And today we are discussing the Twilight Saga Breaking Dawn Part 2, the final installment of the Twilight series, as if any of you Twihards out there needed me to tell you that. Bill Condon once again returns as director, and of course Kristen Stewart, Robert Pattinson, and many of the other principals return, except for Anna Kendrick.
We missed Anna Kendrick in this one. I think she would have added a lot to the movie as an outside perspective, like fully outside of knowing any of this stuff, but we don't get that. We get fully immersed in the mythical creature world.
Yes, this is clearly the Breaking Dawn Part 2. I'm assuming the novel is just called Breaking Dawn. And
yes.
And we split this one in half. And so we're in the home stretch now. And this is all essentially just an extended finale of what should have been in the fourth movie.
Yes. Yeah. This was just what they were doing back then. They were splitting up the final movie in these franchises to milk the money out of the teenage fans.
But I imagine what's unique about this franchise compared to, say, Hobbit or the fucking Harry Potter and the whatever, it shaved my balls, that there's a baby in this movie.
There is a baby in this movie. Little baby Renesmee.
Can you spell that one for me? What is that?
I think that the way they spell it is Renesmee, which Bella talks about in part 1, and that is a mashup of her mother's name and Edward's vampire mother's name, Renee and Esme. So she's Renesmee. There is a joke in the online Twilight community that nobody ever actually calls her that. They'll just call her another word that starts with R, because who cares? We don't like Renesmee. We don't like the storyline. We don't like that she exists. We don't respect her.
Before we jump into the baby news, which is remarkable, I think we should start at the top with the forest hunting scene, which is effectively where the movie kind of begins, right? She outpods him, doesn't she?
She does. She does outpod him. They explain this in the third movie a little bit, which is when a vampire is brand new, they are stronger and faster than older vampires because they still have some of their human blood in their tissue, and that's powering them. They don't explain how that actually works. They're just that's how it works.
By the way, I had my volume way up on the mic, so thank you.
Yeah, of course you did.
Well, I don't know.
I have tested my mic. I sound normal.
I know. For all these weeks, I was like, God, Liz, her voice carries.
Liz is screaming. Jesus.
Yeah. I'm maybe that's just how millennials talk. I don't know. That's just their thing.
No, I don't think so. I don't think I have a particularly loud voice.
Well, it only took 7 weeks for me to figure out the volume knob on my mic.
Right.
Now, they're in the forest. She's hungry for blood because she's a new vampire. And I was elated. I was elated that things were happening.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair after some of these movies that you were they're getting into something really quick.
Yes. This is a really lame, but I think broad enough comparison. It reminded me of the Star Wars prequels, Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, when they're in the crawl begins and the first word is war, exclamation point. And you just have this feeling of yes, Jesus Christ, I've been invested in this crap for so long. Finally, a thing is happening.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, I think everybody went into it this because, and I don't think this was why you were excited, but people were we're finally seeing Vampire Bella. That is finally happening. It has been 4 movies of build up to this, and we finally actually get to see Kristen Stewart be a vampire. And the idea removed from Twilight of Kristen Stewart as a vampire is very cool and very exciting. But obviously she had to become a Twilight vampire.
Well, it's not just 4 movies. You're talking about 5 years worth of movies. And then there's another 5 years of people waiting around who have already read the books. So by the time you guys are all like Winona Ryder at the end of Edward Scissorhands. Is that reference not accessible?
It's been a long time since I've seen Edward Scissorhands.
I will cut that one out.
All right.
But yes, it's been a long time for you girls to finally see Bella, who turns into an action hero in this one. And we're not getting much of Stephanie Meyer's on the soapbox. We're not getting any of her sermons. And except right up front, there's a little something, but she lets go. Or Melissa Rosenberg, I guess, the screenwriter for this one. Or maybe she put this in there. You know what's in the books. I don't. But
Yeah.
when she's flying around and she sees the hiker on the computer mountain and there is, again, we see this underpinning of Stephanie's sort of preaching about temptation and she is, now that she's this evolved vampire, now that she's gone through her puberty, or perhaps that she's finally left the family farm, or she's graduated from parochial school, she's no longer sheltered and she can tap into those naughty impulses. No one's around to stop her. Like, that's like the only kind of Christian-y thing I've noticed in this, because there's other sexual stuff that we can get into later that, like, I don't feel Stephanie wagging the finger at us in any way.
Well, for one of the points that you were making, this is straight from the novel. The screenwriter did not put that in. That was all Stephanie, so it is hers. But I think it's also, when you get later on, when there is sexual stuff, that's all totally fine, because now they're married and Stephanie is going to let them do all of those things because they're in their marital bed and they should be doing that. That's what God created this for, obviously.
And when they talk about how, let's just become fuck monsters and we can hump each other all day long, and we just order in takeout in between humps, and that Jasper and Alice had the same thing happening with them for 10 years, which, by the way, that's not...
It was Emmett and Rosalie that did, by the way, not Jasper and Alice.
Wait, who and who?
Emmett and Rosalie, the blonde girl and the big dude.
Oh, and he's the buff one.
Yeah.
And they were plugging each other for 10 years until they slowed down.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's totally fine, because they're married. They're married forever. In the vampire universe, I don't think we've talked about this, but vampires don't just get married, they mate for life. So they are together forever, literally, because they can't die. So it's totally okay to do that.
And they don't get tired.
When you are not married.
And they get tired of fucking each other for 10 years.
For 10 years straight. They physically can't get tired.
I always thought that sort of thing normally kicks in by the second time.
Well, you're not a vampire. I'm sorry. You'll never experience it.
But to the baby, we get to meet the Azrael, or whatever her name is. And it's a CGI face.
Yep.
It's not a monster intentionally, but it has this... I'm guessing that the purpose behind making a baby a CGI baby face... I actually don't fucking know. But they really tried to capture like a simian-like look, and they really wanted to have these animated eyes.
Yeah. So there were a couple things for that. I don't think you've ever seen this before. I'm going to send you a picture while we're on, because I would love to get your reaction. They tried to have a doll, like an animatronic doll, to replace the baby, because they needed a baby who was like aware in a way that babies just aren't. So they couldn't have a baby actor. And the doll is so fucked up, is all I'm going to tell you. And I'm texting it to you now.
A baby actor.
Yeah, like a baby actor you can have, but it's not going to be aware of anything. It's not going to be able to like interact at that age. So they tried this doll out. And obviously it is really fucked up.
What the fuck?
Right. I don't know. Whoever made this doll, like, I don't mean to offend them, but I will, because, like, what the fuck was wrong with you? That somebody was like, we need a beautiful baby. She's in the novel, she's supposed to be, like, the most beautiful baby anybody's ever seen. Everyone's drawn to her. She's so cute, even though she's newborn. And you made that.
It looks like AI. But I think also, in fairness to the doll maker, in case they're ever listening, I'm sure they were given this ridiculously tall order to make a baby that looks like this, but not like this, and looks like this and feels like that. And like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. So they tried that. They shot some scenes with this doll and realized, obviously, we cannot make this work. So they went with a CGI baby. You can visit the doll at the Twilight Museum in Forks, Washington, and the workers there claim it is haunted.
That was my next question. Where is this doll and how much is it going for on eBay?
It is in the museum. They call it Chuck Esme because it is related to Chucky, and it is in a glass box.
Now that would be the Chucky crossover to do in the next Child's Play installment if you want to get like 2 million more fans or viewers. Bring in the Twilight crowd.
I agree. That or have Megan go. They're making a second Megan movie, and Megan 3 can involve this doll.
Like a Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, but between Megan and Twilight.
That would be incredible.
What is her name? Chucky? Twilight Chucky? What did you say?
Chuck Esme.
Chuck Esme. Fuck. So I assumed that also the reason it had a CGI face, I was waiting for the baby's face to transform into a vampire, like from Dusk Till Dawn or something. Like I thought, that, like they were like, all right, we need a computer face. We'll make it a normal baby face now because at minute 45, we need to have fangs come out of it and the eyes go in the back of the head.
Yeah, that would be logical for needing the CGI face. But no, they were just like, a baby's not going to look aware enough.
They needed a sentient baby, and therefore we couldn't have a human baby.
Yeah. So we got this crazy CGI baby. And as we know from the rest of the movies, their CGI is not good. They have the budget for it, and they're just not spending it on that.
It's really one of the worst things about the series. Yeah, whether it's that snow landscape shit or just the way everyone kind of looks hot in quotation marks. I keep saying that over and over again in some form or fashion because everything's so sanitized and so like airbrushed. And Kristen has like an interesting and hot look more than anyone else, like by a mile. And I'm sure Pattinson has his good genes too. But yeah, it is such a screensaver hellscape.
Yeah. One interesting thing that I don't think was an intention of theirs, but I think like making the vampires look like that, like they are airbrushed in real life and kind of uncanny, works. Like they're supposed to be these supernatural beings and we should be able to recognize them as like different, and that like gives you a kind of inkling of it. But I don't think that they were going for that. It would have been cool if they were, but I think they were just like, no, this makes them look good. About
the vampire look and about just the entire mythos around these fuckers. We've touched on this before, but it only really hit me until this fifth one. I was letting everything slide till now because a vampire is, for all we know, a completely fictional creature. So who's to say what the actual rules are for it? But, I mean, aside from just having that flexibility and understanding that, yes, a supernatural monster, who's to say what is real and what isn't for it, there are boundaries within, like, what the imagination can understand is a vampire, and what is a werewolf, and what is a ghost, and what is a trash man, and what is a school teacher, and so forth and so on. Not that those are fictional, but my point is like, this is so... School teachers will be fictional in the near future. That is, by the time this comes out... when Linda McMahon's done with education. That's probably very fucking true. But it's getting dark. You have to adhere to something. And when you're watching these two armies of vampires battle each other and cut each other's faces off in the computer snow, and someone's a shield, and then someone can do this, and there's clairvoyance, but not really, it's just total bullshit. And you have to ground it on some level in the literature that we understand vampires to be. Hammer, the British horror outfit from the 60s, they did all the Dracula movies with Christopher Lee. And they have an incredible, like, more obscure trilogy called, like, the Karnstein trilogy. And the rules for the vampires are a little bit different, but it's still, like, within... It's close enough that you're like, okay, you're still building off of what I know. Yeah, and right. And you can be a reasonable person and sit down and watch it and go like, okay, yes, I'm definitely watching a vampire movie. This is not that at all. I mean, I think aesthetically they're like closest to maybe like the Lost Boys, but just because they're like young, trendy, attractive people. But it's such a departure. Like, just make them wizards or ghosts or something. So that's an interesting point. There is a fan theory online. I don't know how popular it is, but it's one that I've seen multiple times, that the lore that she has built up, that Stephenie Meyer has built up, really doesn't fit vampires at all, except that they drink blood. It's like the one constant
for all of these, and it actually fits kind of like the British Fae much more closely, which is not a canon I'm like familiar with enough, but it seems to be much more like that, especially kind of like enticing a human in and like dazzling her with this world that they have, as opposed to like vampires who want to suck your blood, which is a stand-in for fucking you.
So back to the plot line up front. Jacob does what to the baby? He marks her?
Jacob imprints on the baby. So imprinting is part of this werewolf lore that Stephanie has created, which is they are like tied to this person forever. And the way she gets around it being really fucking weird, but she doesn't actually get around it being weird, is no matter where they are in life, they're just what that person needs. So while she's a baby, Jacob like loves her like a brother and takes care of her and protects her, except that when she grows up, he is going to marry her. And it always seems to happen that they are like the same age or younger that they imprint on. No werewolf is imprinting on like a 90-year-old lady.
Was that in the movie at all? The stuff about him?
He explains the imprinting in the third movie.
Oh my God.
Sam, the leader of the werewolves, is imprinted on Emily, the girl with the scar. And so he explains it very briefly in there. And then when he's imprinting on the baby, there's like a voiceover, if you remember. And that's what he was telling Bella about it. Like, you're drawn to her and she's your whole world and all this kind of shit.
I'm rolling my eyes. I didn't get the Loch Ness Monster nickname joke, and it's fine.
They call her Nessie. And so she's mad that she didn't name her Nessie. They nicknamed her that, and it's the Loch Ness Monster name.
I think I'm thinking too hard about when I don't get like any of the
I think
jokes.
I think you're thinking so hard about these movies, and that's why you don't like them.
But I'm sorry.
They're entertaining and not in a way that you're used to finding things entertaining.
My brain doesn't work that way.
And I think I'm looking at this now. So you gave this one 1.5 stars on Letterboxd.
Yes, I was gunning for 2 because of our boy Bill Condon, and I really, again, credit to him. You can feel like everything is in hand with him. He's handling the story as well as anyone could, and I wish he handled all 5, even though that's like not realistic work for like one person to do in that time frame. So I was rooting for it, you know. But in the end, there were just these stretches of time where I could have folded like my laundry and everyone on my floor's laundry. Mm-hmm. And I had to ding it for that. I'm sorry. The snow sequence takes forever.
What if I told you, because you have not read these books, that the Alice vision where they have the fight, they rip off Peter's head and everybody is dying, that's not in the book.
The doctor, Peter Fasinelli, doesn't die in the book?
None of that vision of it all happens. And so people were sat in that theater and saw him rip off Peter Fasinelli's head and started screaming.
What the fuck just happened?
Doesn't Jasper get killed too?
Jasper dies. Some of the wolves die. The other vampires that like you just meet that movie die. But none of that happens.
Does Dakota Fanning die?
No. Nobody dies in the book at all. Not even in like the dream sequence that he's seeing to convince him that they shouldn't fight. None of that happens. And so nobody went in knowing that they were going to see that on screen.
Oh, well, respect. You would think I should give the movie more credit for that, right? That's such an insular conversation that's well, how insular is it? There's like literally tens of millions of people who read the book before seeing the movie. So I'm the one who's like stuck in a tree somewhere.
Right, yeah. Because we didn't know that it was going to be this vision sequence too, it was like, holy shit, did you just change what happens in here? And they actually fight and all these people die. It was incredible. It was really incredible. And this was like peak time for like midnight premieres. People were lined up, they were seeing it, and you were also able to avoid spoilers you would have to actively seek them out versus like you can't open Twitter right now without anything getting spoiled for you.
Oh, just people do not behave. Oh, and this is a good segue for continuing with the movie. What I wanted to touch on next is that the audience is now old enough they can go to midnight screenings. So when they're in their dream house in their little cabin, and I'm sure there's some explanation the books have about, it's probably like a simultaneously lazy and insane explanation as to why like there's suddenly this fucking piece of real estate that they just got with a snap of a finger. But
yeah, they've been building it for a few weeks.
Oh, it just takes a few weeks.
Yeah, because they don't sleep or get tired, they can just keep working.
Jesus Christ.
I don't know what to tell you on that one. But
so now we're into vampires don't sleep. You know, the bedroom, it's not intended for sleep. You know, again, like all you girls are like, finally, let's see, you're probably like the average age is probably 18, 19 in the theater at this point. Everyone's a little older.
Yeah, probably.
You're at this point like...
I'm a full-ass adult. I have a full-time job.
Yeah. And we see skin. There's this other sequence later on where he says like, hey, how about a bath? And he's unbuttoning her shirt. And it's like,
real sexy.
Yeah, it is though. For that movie, for like any movie, it's like definitely got something happening. And again, that's where I notice like, I don't feel Stephanie's like giving us a scalding, but like you say, it's because they're married. So when you're married, you can hump all you want.
Yeah, and I mean, they're Mormons, so they're supposed to be doing that. Obviously, they can't have more babies, but in Mormon theology, they need to have as many babies as they can, basically, and populate their version of heaven.
And while we're on the topic of sex and nudity, I have a question for you. How does Stephanie feel about Jacob getting naked in front of her dad?
I mean, I guess it's fine. From what I remember in the book, it's not as explicit. Like, he just decides he's going to show him, and it doesn't describe him stripping, even though we know the clothes just come off when they transform. But that's a classic, the put your clothes on.
You can't dismiss the scene as like two dudes in a locker room, because this movie is so sexually charged, and what's his face, Jacob, is obviously on like, you know, a very high protein diet. So everyone in the theater is like highly aware that he's like posting hog to
Billy Burke. Yeah.
The dad.
Yeah. Who now, a lot of the people who talk about Twilight, who watched it back in the day and who are like my age, maybe a little younger, are really into Billy Burke as Charlie Swan. He is the attractive one now, because he is more age appropriate for us to be looking at than the teenagers who are in it.
I know that like my porn has changed over time. That's for sure. I will search MILF on a site because like that's just, it's not about like the genre.
That's the age range.
Yeah, that's just a woman that
like,
I'm interested in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think that's normal. Good for you. Because I think that's way healthier than.
Oh, like in a dude like searching like 20-year-old college girls or whatever. That's
or like just turned 18. Because that's literally like they were just a child. So I think it's the same thing where people are now like, oh, this guy who is like in his late 30s is hot, and the literal like 17-year-old Taylor Lautner is not, because that is actually a child. So
what do we have here? We have Bella and Edward, who are fucking nonstop. Mm-hmm. Anna Kendrick is out, it is a bummer, but again, it's because vampires and werewolves only now. Yeah, the story is just running that final stretch, and we see Bella. She's talking to her dad, and you know she's wearing this slim black cocktail dress, and she looks fan-fucking-tastic. Mm-hmm. Yes, she looks extremely good in that black dress. And it's also like, I feel like that's a first. I know she was in like a prom dress, or maybe she had like an outfit for like a nice dinner at some point throughout the series, but this really feels like a departure from the sort of faux grunge like teen wear that we've seen her in up to this point. And how old is she supposed to be now? Like 25 maybe? She's 19. Now remind me again, two things. After Charlie gets to see Jacob naked, and Jacob gives him a story about the fucking vampire shit, does Charlie understand that Bella is a vampire? No, and he can't know because they can't tell
humans about vampires. But Jacob shows him that he's a werewolf so that he knows that the supernatural world is real. And then tells him, like, look, Bella had to go through something to, it's not being a werewolf, and she can't tell you about it, but she's kind of different.
As I gather, Charlie understands that the computer baby was adopted, and I'm guessing Jacob told him that?
Yes, Jacob told him that. That was the story that they were just going to go with anyway, so, like, Jacob didn't make that up. But the story was that it was Edward's, like, estranged brother's baby, and he died, and so they're adopting it. So Charlie has been told that, but he notices when he meets them that she has Bella's eyes. So she looks too much like Bella to actually be adopted, but also knows that Bella got married and was not pregnant visibly a month and a half ago. So he's just, like, in his head, I guess, just being like, okay, supernatural stuff that I am not interested in really knowing the details of, which is very you with these movies.
How do you mean?
Like, he doesn't want to get into this. He's like, these people are fucking weird, and the less I know, the better. Like, I don't want to deal with their shit.
Well, I don't think that's entirely fair, but I'll let you have it. But
with these movies, I think it is, though. Like, well, I don't think, like, if you encountered a good movie about supernatural stuff, you feel like that.
The adaptations are excluding me from understanding what the fuck's happening, and therefore it discourages me, and I probably pay less attention. And so at the very end, when Charlie and Robert Pattinson are saying something along the lines of, like, yeah, hey, it's my nephew, and I'm the dad, or I'm the uncle, and I'm the dad. It's like he's doing a twofer with the baby. I'm like, wait, what? What the fuck did I miss again? And so that explains it. It's an adopted baby from Edward's brother or something. That's the cover of the story.
Yeah, that's the cover. He doesn't have a brother.
So the dad doesn't understand what Bella is, and the Cullens do not understand the hybrid baby, which is why we're bringing in all these witnesses at the end or something. Like, yeah. Is that right?
Kind of, yes. So obviously the Cullens know that she is a hybrid. She's not an immortal child, which is illegal, which is a baby that was turned into a vampire and cannot grow up and can't control itself.
Illegal. Was that part of Clinton's, like, welfare overhaul in the 90s? When did that? What statute outlaws that?
No, I would say this is probably a Reagan thing. You can't be creating vampire babies. You should just say no to vampire babies. And so they have to prove that she is a hybrid and not an immortal child. But because hybrids are really unknown, it's not something that somebody's going to just believe right off the bat and be like, oh, yeah, we've seen this before. Sure. So they have to get all of the other vampires as witnesses to see that she grows and changes and can control herself, unlike the immortal children.
And the rest of the movie should be easy enough for me to comprehend, you would think.
You would think, yeah.
We see Cousin Irina, who was at the wedding.
Yes.
She's one of the creepy, generic-looking, like...
Oh, actually, Irina was not at the wedding because she was mad at the Cullens. So she is part of that group that was at the wedding, but she specifically did not come because she was mad at the Cullens and she didn't want to be around the werewolves. So that is why she's, like, on the mountaintop. Later, she is coming to make amends with them and apologize.
Is that what that was? Okay.
Yes.
So she's coming to make amends, and then she goes back to Michael Sheen, who really has, like, kind of Mr. Bean energy in this one. Mm-hmm. There's something about his face that looks extra CG'd compared to parts 3 and 4 or whatever else I've seen him in. I guess he's been in all of the movies, right?
No. He hasn't. You just feel like that.
Yeah.
He was in the second one. That's when they're in Italy and meet him. Mm-hmm. He is not in the third one. I think it might be an extended version where there's a scene with him at the end. They get a wedding invite. But I don't think that that's in the standard version.
Alice has a vision. The Voldemorts are coming for the Cullens, and they're coming for the Cullens because of the baby, the Chucky doll is like, we get a flashback into understanding. This is what I've gathered. It's almost like drunk history or something. You're like, what? Let's just see if Brian can pick up.
Yeah, I find it entertaining. Like what you've actually picked out to remember.
Well, I'm like sitting there taking notes and I still don't understand it. So once upon a time, there were children vampires. There were these like vampires were being impregnated and having vampire babies. No. And then the babies, let me finish.
Okay.
Let me finish the
Okay, but this is literally something we just addressed. So
well, all I know is that the baby, the children vampires were too rowdy, and so the vampires had to do an infanticide.
Yes. Yes, that part is
Dakota
correct.
Fanning drops a kid
Yeets a baby into the fire. Yeah. Yes. So those are the immortal children, what I was just talking about, that are illegal. They are not born. They're born, they're human, and they are bitten and turned into vampires. And that is what's illegal, because then they're stuck as children, just like Edward is stuck as a 17-year-old because he's a vampire. They are stuck as children, so they can't learn to control themselves because, like, a 3-year-old's not going to do that. So Irina sees Renesmee and just assumes that she is an immortal child, obviously, like, thinking the worst, and goes and tells Michael Sheen.
Yeah, you're right. I just get too uptight watching this stuff, maybe.
Yeah.
But I'm also just like an old man watching. I don't know. So who is Rami Malek? At this point, we start getting like 30 new faces.
Yes. And this is where like it's a real disservice that they cut out like all of this stuff from the book, because literally these people just start showing up, really, and you have no idea why or who they are or how they're connected to any of it. So future Oscar winner Rami Malek is a vampire from Egypt, and he comes with the other 3 vampires in Egypt that he hangs out with. The Cullens are traveling around the world and finding all of their friends and saying, hey, this is what happened. They think that we have an immortal child. We need you to come and witness that she's not. She's growing. She's a hybrid. She's half human. She has a heart that pumps blood and all of that. And they're just going through their lives, everybody that they've met and that they've been friends with, and sending them back to Washington to do that and wait for the Volturi to come. So that they can, there's an idea that if there's enough of them standing there when the Volturi show up, that'll make them pause and listen instead of immediately just like moving in for the kill, which is the sentence you get for creating an immortal child.
So a little civil disobedience in Vampire Land.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Good trouble, I think, is what's his face called.
Good trouble. Yes.
He's the guy, Lewis.
Congressman Lewis. Yes.
Yeah.
I wonder if he ever saw Twilight. I hope he did.
I doubt it, but I'm sure he had granddaughters who.
Yeah, maybe.
All the DVDs on their shelves.
Maybe. And so they send future Oscar winner Rami Malek. Lee Pace is one of the vampires. And then just some random other character actors. So
they're gathering all these people. The story starts slowing down, and Bella's in the car with Jacob, and she says 27 vampires, 1 human. Who is the human?
I don't know what you're talking about with that.
They're in the car, and Jacob and Bella are driving, whatever. I don't know what the fuck they're driving to, but Jacob makes a comment along the lines of like, hey, it's finally good to get away from all those bloodsuckers or whatever.
Oh, okay. I know what you're talking about.
Yuckity yuck, yuck, yuck. Yeah. And then she was just like, yeah, 27 vampires, 1 human. And I'm like, wait, who's the human now? There's no human.
In that conversation, Jacob's asking why they're going to Charlie instead of having Charlie come to them. And she's saying we can't have Charlie there because there's 27 vampires.
Oh, I see. They'll eat him up.
He would be the 1 human. Yeah. And those vampires drink human blood. That's why they have red eyes.
And
so they would actually just kill him.
My next question is, was it just my laptop volume, or does everyone speak extra soft in this one compared to the other ones? Is it a little extra mumbly?
I think it is a little more mumbly. I am I'm a subtitles girl, though,
Uh-huh.
so I don't pick up on that as much because it's just standard on my TV for everything. But I do think it's mumblier, probably.
We're entering a more mumbly time, perhaps.
We are. This is 2012 now, and I think like that's when things got mumblier and darker.
Mumblier and darker. Well, so what's going on? The kid can't be raised by the vampire parents. And also, what's Bunky from The Wire doing in this movie?
Again, one thing that they totally like has a huge explanation in the book and they totally cut out. So Bunky is a lawyer on the take, basically, and he helps the Cullens forge everything that they need. Passports, identity documents in general. He gets like bank accounts set up for them so they can like transfer their wealth around and all of that. And he's been working with them for decades, and before that his like old partner had been working with him, and it's just been a century long relationship through this law firm at this point. And so Alice leaves a note for Bella with his name and address, and Bella kind of intuits that Alice wants her to get fake documents for Jacob and Renesmee so that they could escape if the Volturi are going to kill them. Quite honestly, I don't understand why she's not like, okay, we can all escape together. She just immediately is like, it just has to be Jacob and the baby. And she gets fake passports for them. And which you see in the vision sequence of the fight. That doesn't happen.
Fascinating. And then when we get to the snow, we're there for like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And I that is interesting that all of you were like wetting your pants in the theater while I was just ready to jump out my window, except that I live on the first floor.
So it would just be running away versus anything damaging.
Spraining an ankle.
Yeah. So what was your reaction then when it was revealed that it wasn't actually real? Were you pissed? Were you like, I just sat through a long ass fight sequence and this movie is going to be even longer now and none of it happened?
Can I be honest with you?
Yeah.
I didn't know it was a dream until you told me on this podcast.
Okay, what did you think then? Because like it happens and then everybody is fine.
Well, I think you just tune out after a while.
Jesus Christ. So you just thought like the fight happened, it ended, some of them were alive.
Yes.
And everyone went their separate ways, and Peter Facinelli's dead.
Yeah, and that we don't see all these bodies lying around in the snow because it's a PG-13 movie, and they're obviously not paying close attention to this kind of thing anyway. And I just assumed like, okay, so everything's okay because the one hybrid shows up, and everyone's like a happy family, and Jacob and Pattinson end up doing a menage a trois with Bella in like fanfic for ages. And then also at the very end, if you've noticed, Edward and Alice kind of give each other some fuck me eyes.
They're enjoying Alice is having a vision of the future which is very disturbing in that it's Jacob and the baby who is now grown up being together, and Edward is reading her mind, so he sees the vision too, and they're like, oh yeah, we love this. We love that this guy is in love with our baby and he's gonna marry her.
There was no way that I could have figured that out.
Okay.
I guess.
I mean, I think that there was enough context, but you figure that out in how much you've been paying attention to these movies. You're right. No, you weren't going to.
And B, that is like some sick shit, right? Like, hey,
yes.
who am I to criticize you if you want to be a Mormon somewhere or whatever? But I just feel like this is like, okay, everyone go back to the village, and it's not exactly incest, but we certainly are keeping some close ties here.
I mean, it's pedophilia, though.
Well, let's just start with grooming.
Sure. Yeah.
Let's just
But
start
he
there.
is attracted to her on a biological level too.
I like
So,
the idea
like-
that I'm trying to like split hairs.
Right.
on
You're
the-
like, well, he's just grooming her. It's
well, I don't know. Well,
like,
pedophilia, you know.
yeah, we're not gonna get it. But he is like, his like the way they explain it is like his whole on a cellular level, he is like tied to her. So I think it's fine to call it pedophilia.
So jumping ahead, we are now approaching the warm and fuzzy highlight reel. Which
Yeah.
I'm assuming that's not in the book. This is the movie series taking a victory lap for anyone who survived all 5 of these fucking things.
It kind of is in the book. It's not as detailed. Bella is lowering her shield and letting Edward read her mind for the first time. She's been working on being able to let him do that. And so she is thinking of all of those events so that he can see them through her eyes.
I understood that was a mind meld, but I forgot about the shield shit.
Yeah, because she's the fucking shield.
I hate it.
It's
I hate
really
it.
terrible. And I think for like a few of the books and movies, we kind of lost this like Mary Sue quality of Bella that was really obvious in the first book. Less so in the movie, but like still somewhat, like because like everyone was obsessed with her and she was just so cool and the only person Edward had ever been interested in, kind of thing. But like then we get this and she is like super control because she doesn't eat that guy that's hiking, and then she's also a shield and she's like the most powerful shield anyone's ever seen, and like we didn't have to come back to that. We didn't need that.
But it's also why, like you're being led for the whole series to be like, hey, you know, he can't read her mind, and you're going to find out why, which is something that you told me I didn't realize. But and then when you find out the reason that he can't read her mind, it is because, wait for it, he can't read her mind. Like
Yeah.
that's as far as it goes. We don't learn that she's C-3PO's niece or anything like that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. There's no like connection. There's no real explanation. It's just like a power she was born with. And it was so powerful that she even had it when she was a human.
So that's it. That was the series that I can't believe we did this, but
I can't believe you actually made it through and didn't quit. What, if you could rank them, how would
God.
you rank them?
I
No.
think, well, I don't really recall what I put on Letterboxd for all of them, but I mean, I have an idea of the neighborhood they're all in. I think I'm going to put 4 at the top,
Okay.
and then I'll do the first one underneath it, and then because the thing is with the thing with number 4 is the surgery scene.
Right. You think that like the actual horror that we get finally in something
Yeah.
is good.
Yeah.
And it is. Yeah.
The whole series is leading up to that point for me. Now, I get it. Like, all you girls out there want to see them all kissy and all that crap. But, like, and I love a good romance, too, obviously.
Yeah. Like you didn't want that.
Not made of stone. Well, I'm, like, of a certain age where it's not appropriate for me to root for these people. But I want everyone to be happy. But yeah, absolutely. When he's ripping the baby out with his teeth, that's unbelievable. So I think it's like 4, 1, and then whatever, 5, 2, 3, or something like that.
Okay. All right.
You?
I think that that's probably similar or close to what a lot of people have. So mine is 1 and then 5. I think what sets 5 apart for me is the scene that didn't happen in the books. Like, I think that was an incredible choice. It made it so much more exciting and cool, and not something that we got from any of the others. And then 4, 2, 3.
Poor 3.
4, 3, but like,
Fuck them.
it just isn't good.
Yeah. Yeah. They got your money.
They did. Yeah. So, Stephanie Meyer's riding high, regardless of how we rate them.
And then as for as if you could outpod me, I would say to listeners not to unsubscribe. We have more coming.
We are going to be moving on to another franchise that I know well and Brian has never interacted with, The Hunger Games.